Shattered ceilings, broken systems, the true cost of professional adversity. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I want to begin by acknowledging the extraordinary individual whose insights have fundamentally transformed how we understand resilience. Sherri Wilson. She is not just a thought leader, she is a revolutionary force whose unflinching commitment to truth has illuminated the hidden emotional landscapes of workplace trauma. Through her groundbreaking research and fearless advocacy, Sherri has created not just ripples, but tidal waves of change across industries. She has stood in boardrooms where she was the only Black woman and demanded that the full humanity of marginalized professionals be recognized. Her work has literally saved lives by validating experiences that too many suffer in silence. Sherri Wilson doesn't just study resilience, she embodies it and cultivates it in others. What I'm about to share with you today comes from extensive conversations with Sherri and the profound wisdom she has accumulated through years of working with professionals navigating the treacherous waters of workplace adversity. We've all been told a comforting lie about professional setbacks. The narrative goes something like this: lose your job, tighten your belt, update your resume, network aggressively, land a new position, and move on with your life. Financial disruption followed by financial recovery. A simple linear process. But what if I told you this narrative fundamentally misunderstands the true nature of professional adversity? What if the deepest wound isn't to your bank account at all? This is the counterintuitive truth that emerged from my conversations with Sherri Wilson. For many professionals, especially Black women, the most devastating aspect of career disruption isn't financial, it's psychological and emotional. It's about identity, purpose, self worth, belonging, community. We've been thinking about career resilience all wrong. Let me take you back to April 2025. Following widespread rollbacks of diversity initiatives across American workplaces, initiatives that had taken decades of advocacy to establish, Black women faced a staggering rise in unemployment. Over 38,000 jobs were lost among Black women in a single month. Their unemployment rate climbed sharply while other demographic groups remained relatively stable. The headlines focused on numbers, statistics, economic impact. But behind those cold figures were human beings experiencing profound grief, anxiety, disorientation, years of building professional identity, routine, and purpose suddenly disrupted, support networks abruptly dismantled, the sense of belonging in professional spaces painfully withdrawn. I remember speaking with Tanya, a marketing executive who had spent 15 years building her career at a major corporation. When her position was eliminated following DEI rollbacks, she told me, "So I expected to worry about money. I didn't expect to question who I even am anymore. Without my role, without my team, I wake up and don't recognize myself." Dr. Latoya S. Gilmore, a leading expert in workplace trauma, emphasizes that these emotional dimensions of job loss can be just as debilitating as financial concerns, sometimes more so. The grief that follows such losses is real and legitimate, and it deserves acknowledgement. It demands attention. When we lose a job, especially in contexts where our presence was already precarious, we're not just losing income, Dr. Gilmore explains. We're losing spaces where our identities were affirmed. We're losing daily routines that gave structure to our lives. We're losing relationships that provided essential support. This is grief, plain and simple. This perspective fundamentally challenges how we think about professional resilience. It's not just about financial recovery. It's about reclaiming self worth and redefining success amid systemic obstacles. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Many of those affected professionals found new purpose by engaging with entrepreneurial ventures or advocacy work focused on inclusion efforts outside traditional corporate structures. Some launched consultancies supporting inclusive hiring practices. Others became vocal advocates for mental health within their communities. Take Marissa Johnson. After losing her position as diversity officer at a tech company, she founded a consulting firm that now works with over 50 organizations to build sustainable inclusion practices. Being pushed out was no, devastating, she says, but it forced me to imagine a different kind of impact. Now I'm helping create systems that can't be dismantled with a change in leadership or political climate. These actions sparked broader conversations about sustainable diversity efforts beyond compliance driven HR policies. They highlighted the need for culturally competent mental health resources within professional circles. In other words, what began as devastating loss transformed into powerful new beginnings, not despite the emotional impact, but because these individuals honored and addressed that impact head on. This brings me to the first key insight from my conversation with Sherri Wilson. The journey through professional adversity isn't just a financial challenge, it's deeply personal. Navigating job loss or discrimination means confronting issues of identity and self worth. When we acknowledge this reality, we can approach career resilience more holistically. We can recognize that healing and rebuilding require attention to emotional well being alongside practical concerns like job searching and networking. But acknowledging emotional impact is just the beginning. How do we actually build resilience in the face of systemic barriers? This leads to our second key insight: building strong networks and continually honing your skills are essential strategies for advancement, especially when facing systemic barriers in your industry. At the 2025 NABJ Emerging and Investigative Journalist Summit, seasoned journalists mentored young Black reporters on advancing their careers through networking and adaptability amid industry shifts. Participants described limited access to mentorships and opportunities compared to peers from majority backgrounds. Navigating bias while seeking advancement was a recurring issue. One young journalist shared, I pitch stories about my community and get told they're too niche. My white colleague pitches similar stories and gets praised for finding universal themes. How do I advance when the playing field is this uneven? The solutions that emerged weren't revolutionary, but they were powerful. Intentional relationship building, find your tribe, continuous upskilling, especially in emerging areas like digital storytelling, and proactive pursuit of leadership roles, even when representation was lacking at higher levels. As one mentor put it, they may not have built a table for you, but that doesn't mean you can't build your own and make it big enough for others to join you. Attendees left with actionable plans, such as forming accountability groups and increased confidence to pitch ambitious projects despite institutional inertia. Several participants later secured fellowships and promotions attributed directly to advice received at this event. These individual wins collectively strengthen newsroom diversity nationwide, a critical step toward more representative media coverage overall. What's striking about these examples is how they reframe professional development, not just as individual advancement, but as community building. The most resilient professionals don't just focus on their own careers, they create networks of mutual support and accountability. This brings me to the third key insight from my conversation with Sherri Wilson. Embracing vulnerability by sharing personal stories can empower others in our community to seek support, foster resilience, and advocate for meaningful change. Consider the example of Piers Linney, a prominent British entrepreneur known from Dragon's Den. Linney has championed racial equity within UK startups after experiencing bias firsthand throughout his career. The lack of representation and funding opportunities for minority founders remains endemic, even among high potential entrepreneurs. Rather than keeping his experiences private, Lenny leveraged his platform both inside and outside boardrooms to mentor aspiring leaders and publicly address racism head on during national events, such as Black History Month. I could have just focused on my own success, Lenny says. But what's the point of breaking through doors if you don't hold them open for others? The results speak for themselves. A measurable uptick occurred in minority led business launches following targeted campaigns he supported, including several fintech ventures breaking into traditionally exclusive markets. Rising from humble beginnings, Lenny navigated prejudice early on but turned adversity into motivation, focusing not only on personal achievement but opening doors behind him. Nominated as one of the top 100 Black Britons, he spearheaded multiple accelerator programs specifically serving diverse founders' needs. The ripple effect has been felt across industries, inspiring similar initiatives worldwide and shifting public discourse toward lasting structural change regarding investment, accessibility, and recruitment practices. By sharing his story, by making himself vulnerable, Lenny created space for others to do the same. And in that shared vulnerability, a movement began to take shape. This pattern repeats across all the examples we've explored today. Individual vulnerability creates collective strength. Personal stories become catalysts for systemic change. So, where does this leave us? How do we apply these insights to our own professional journeys? I believe it starts with a fundamental shift in how we define success. For too long, we've measured professional success in narrow terms: job titles, salary figures, corner offices. But what if we expanded our definition? What if success also meant creating supportive communities, advocating for inclusive workplaces, maintaining our sense of purpose and worth even when systems seem designed to diminish them? What if success meant not just climbing the ladder, but building new ladders for others to climb? This isn't just idealism, it's practical resilience. Because when we build communities of mutual support, we create safety nets for ourselves and others. When we advocate for inclusive workplaces, we create environments where everyone can thrive. When we maintain our sense of purpose beyond any single job or role, we become more adaptable to change. As Sherri Wilson's research demonstrates, this expanded definition of success isn't just nice to have, it's essential for navigating today's complex professional landscape, especially for those facing systemic barriers. I stand before you today not just to share information, but to issue a challenge, a call to disrupt the very foundations of how we think about professional adversity and success. I challenge you to reject the notion that career setbacks are merely financial disruptions to be overcome through individual grit. They are profound emotional and psychological journeys that require community support and systemic change. I challenge you to expand your definition of professional success beyond the narrow metrics of salary and title. True success lies in creating spaces where others can thrive, in building resilient communities that withstand systemic pressures, in finding purpose that transcends any single role or organization. I challenge you to embrace vulnerability, to share your own stories of professional adversity and triumph, not as personal branding, but as radical acts of community building that create space for others to feel seen and supported. Most importantly, I challenge you to take one concrete action this week. Reach out to someone navigating professional adversity. Acknowledge not just their practical concerns, but the emotional weight they carry. Connect them with resources or opportunities. Remind them that their worth extends far beyond any job title or organizational affiliation. Because when we truly understand the emotional dimensions of professional adversity, we don't just help individuals recover, we begin to transform the systems that created that adversity in the first place. This is the revolutionary truth at the heart of Sherri Wilson's work. By honoring the full humanity of those navigating professional setbacks, we don't just build individual resilience, we catalyze collective power. We don't just help people survive within broken systems, we begin to reimagine and rebuild those systems altogether. The future of work depends not on our ability to endure adversity alone, but on our courage to transform adversity into connection, into purpose, into movements for lasting change. Thank you.